I think anyone who spends most of their time online has certain creators they look up to. Creators they idolize, or just simply want to talk to. Very few of us are actually granted access into their personal lives and friend groups. But in 2015, as Five Nights at Freddy's was just turning 2 years old, with 3 games already under its belt, I was lucky enough to be brought in, as it were, as one of the newest members of a rather obscure group at the time, the Pimps. There was a time when the Pimps were seen as the head of their own section of the FNAF fandom, with those viewing their content treating them almost like gods, something they were always quick to deny. With each of us receiving a wide range of fan art, posters, and even animations featuring us, you'd think it would never end. Or at the very least, it would have survived for more than a year. But the fame was fleeting by 2016, and here in 2019, the Pimps are no more. There were walls of text written about it. There was even a post on the FNAF subreddit. This was a big deal for a lot of people. People who sadly went without a true explanation. Gold94 Chica and GTA Psycho each made their own posts on DeviantArt about the goings-on, but I feel neither truly went into detail. So I'm here today to answer the question that's probably been on your minds for at least 4 years. Whatever happened to the Pimps? Hello! If you clicked on this video purely for the title, you might recognize me better like this. But hi, I'm Michael. Most of you, I imagine, are eager to know just what killed the Pimp group all those years ago. And as an ex-pimp myself, and the only one not to have had SFM as the primary focus of his channel, I think I'm the best person to do this. I was there when everything was happening, and I'm the only one, statistically, who is the most likely to do a real-life video on the topic. Hitler's Pimp even credits me as being the one that brought the group together, but that's beside the point. You're here for an answer. And so am I, to be honest. And to do that, we're going to need to talk to some familiar people. Starting with the man himself.
Well, basically with the starting of that channel, it was just my mother's. I think I've already said it in my Q&A video that it was my mother's account, but she never really used YouTube, and I kind of use it to mess around, upload garbage. After some time, she just gave up and gave me the account. Then I started doing those shitty gameplay videos where I'm gonna come up to the game room on the Black Ops. Oh boy, Black Ops mod part 2.
Sick in it. It's amazing what you find out on the map.
And then I found out a Gmod, so I tried to do stop motion, and I was bad at it. And then when I saw that SFM was a thing, back in beta, before it was even accessible on Steam, I tried that. I wasn't even good at that as well. I didn't even know what the fuck I was doing. It was so different back then. And then I tried doing TF2 videos, that kind of worked. I kind of liked that. And then FNAF came out. I look through the workshop and I see that someone uploaded FNAF models. Really bad ones, but they'll suffice for now. I did one video. Off guard it was, of course. No one cared about it. And then I did another one where I just put what I had on mind into SFM, and then the weekend one was made, just improvising, no script, no anything, I just did what comes to mind at first, and then boom. That's where In the Weekend came from. And that's where you kinda came in as well, where you Like, oh, FNAF, there's Pimp, I want to do a collab. Basically, the first one and the third one, first one to the third one, had no story at all. It was just improvised, do what comes to mind, easy enough. But then as I started getting better at SFM, I thought, maybe I could expand this, make my own kind of twist on the FNAF blah blah blah, implementing story kind of, little bits of story here and there, and then more and more lore I made up on the spot. General Beta, Freddy Fazbear, Scrubby, they're all kind of in its own universe now. And then Chica breaking the universe, splicing other universes together, that's why all the COD stuff references are there, because they got merged kind of together.
I didn't know you actually thought about it that much.
Yeah, I like COD Zombies, so I wanted to implement it, so I kind of made lore around it. That's why they go to the Zombies universe, and they need to get the summoning key to stop whatever the law at the time was for Weekend 8.
That's not out yet though, is it?
Of course not, I don't know if it'll ever be.
You didn't really form the Pimps yourself, did you?
Not really, no. They all kind of came to me and you kind of brought us all together in a way. Well, first it was Toby. He was the very first official pimp. I gave him the hat and suit to mark that he's a close friend of mine. And then Anthony, Suna, and Nixon came in, and they were like, oh, can we be friends? You seem really cool. I also do FNAF animations and blah blah blah. And I thought, sure, you seem like nice fellows.
When FNAF came out, the way I was introduced to it was actually like kind of through the memes that came out of it. And when you start getting memes out of something, that means it's usually, you know, interesting. So it kind of caught my attention. Like, I think, man, the first kind of memes were like they had like a picture of Foxy's face pasted over like a GIF or GIF of somebody running and being chased. So the meme was, you know, Foxy chasing down the hallway after the night guard, right? But of course that was way back before I actually decided to actually, you know, participate. Then, you know, the winter started rolling around, and when winter rolls around, you know, I get less busy away from the computer. Usually I got work and all this stuff going on, and during the summer months it's warm, that's when I like to get everything done. But in the winter it's too cold and I just don't want to go outside. So in the winter I usually look for something else to do. I decided that what I was going to do that winter was just to fill my time. It was like I just was looking for something to do. I mean, you know, I was just kind of bored. And what happened was, I think it was actually it was Halloween, right? So it was October, and I guess I decided to go for like a more spooky thing. So at the time, you know, back in 2014, FNAF was actually a horror game. You know, it's really not that anymore at all. But, you know, I kind of used the FNAF as my horror theme, and of all the characters, you know, to kind of like use like as a profile picture, you know, just a way of identifying myself. Like before, I had used like Mewtwo, basically to represent my, you know, avatar. And so basically, you know, we had the 4 main characters of FNAF 1. I mean, Foxy obviously was super popular. Everybody liked Foxy, everybody liked Bonnie, and then of course Freddy was the main character, right? So people were interested in him. And for whatever reason, like nobody really seemed to notice that Chica was a thing. I mean, I guess because Chica was supposed to be like female, but didn't really look like one. So I don't know if like people just couldn't really identify with it, or just nobody really cared because it was a bird. But for whatever reason, that was just the one that spoke to me. So when it came time for me to decide to, you know, try to pick one of these characters and kind of, you know, spookify my accounts, and I decided to go with Chica because nobody else had identified with it. So the character itself, I felt, was more like a blank slate. You know, it was more of an avatar that I felt like I could project myself into without really overlapping or interfering with other people and the way they use the characters, right? And at the time, I was still called Gold94 Corolla, right? That was my original username, and that was actually started because of my car, a Toyota Corolla, that was gold in color and was a 1994. I mean, super creative, right? So then, like 2015 rolls around, like in January, I mean, that's like when it really started to take off. And at the time, of course, Hitler's Pimp was, for me, it was just his style and his sense of humor. For whatever reason, that just got to me. And so what I liked to do was, little snippets of the funny parts of the videos that would give, Hitler's Pimp more of a base. Like that would get him more views because I felt like, this is good stuff. And it took off. Like on DeviantArt, those things, I mean, I was getting, on DeviantArt you get a mention notification every time somebody uses one. And I was getting 3,000 of those a day. And I felt kind of bad because it's like, well, I didn't create this. I was just trying to share something, and I wanted all the attention to go over there. It kind of inspired me to actually try to make something more original myself. And since I couldn't draw, obviously I didn't have any, FNAF merchandise to photograph, I decided, well, why not I just create my own FNAF photographs with Sourceful Maker. And of course, I was inspired by the memes at the time, which came from Hitler's Pimp and others. And that ended up being the focus of what I was doing rather than the icons. I was just kind of derping around and I had like a Chica picture, but now people are actually starting to call me Chica. And everybody thought I was a girl. It was just, none of it was planned. None of it was supposed to happen. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. And it became an opportunity, and I ended up having this, I guess you could call it like a fan base just for myself. And so what I wanted to do was kind of rebrand it a little bit to be more actually, relevant to what I was doing currently. Because, I mean, I didn't even have that Corolla car anymore. That had been gone for years. So what I did was I just changed the Corolla part of the name to Chica. So, Hitler's Pimp and I, we would kind of chat every now and then. I would do more things for him. He would always appreciate it. And at the same time, I kind of had reached out to some of the other people who were doing the same thing on YouTube. They were creating the FNAF Sourceful Maker animations. And these people included GTA Psycho, Nixon, and Mr. Jericho. Specifically those three. And we all just kind of had that in common. And so that was just a really easy way for us all to connect and to get to know each other. We all just, started doing a thing because we had something we wanted to do. Nobody was really inspiring us so much because there wasn't really anybody before us.
Oh god, okay. My first videos were actually those GTA San Andreas hoax videos. Like, oh my god, is Bigfoot in the game? Is it Leatherface in the game? One of my first videos was just the very first video that I created was just a montage of random shit, fucking monster trucking around the city and crashing planes.
Just to be clear, these don't exist anymore.
No,
So I can't
long gone.
put them up on screen. Damn it.
Then it kind of moved on to GTA 4 videos. My first GTA 4 video was jumping out of a helicopter at high speed, body slamming the Empire State Building, and then jumping off the Empire State Building and surviving. Somehow. Yeah.
Okay. So you did actually do GTA videos?
Yes, I did actually do GTA videos.
I didn't know that.
I actually picked up SFM like 2 months before Five Nights at Freddy's would really become a thing. Like, I think it was like announced or teased or maybe it was out, but it wasn't really a thing, I picked up SFM doing some video that's still available out there somewhere, I think. I think I put it on the archive channel, but point is, I already was in SFM and I was finding an interest in it. And then there were models released on Gmod for Five Nights at Freddy's. So I just ported them in to SFM and started making a couple pictures. I don't have anything to show for that. And then I found the Bite of 87 audio and I did that. And then while doing that, the session fucked up a load of times. Am I allowed to curse in this?
It's my channel. Of course you are.
I just wanted to make
Fucking
sure.
hell.
So I decided to just say fuck it, and I made Foxy count aside. I guess it didn't really take off until I met Nixon. He was like the stepping stone in my part in the group. I also met Mr. Jericho because he was a frequent commenter, like you were. That was before a lot of people were like, "Well, I'm friends with a real GTA Psycho."
Yep.
At the time, I wasn't like not wanting to add people. Just teaching Mr. Jericho how to animate, or at least the basics of it. He can figure out his own style. I told him what was what, how to do this, that, whatever. Me and Nixon were also like co-starring in each other's videos at that point.
To explain how the Pimps came to be and why animation became a part of my life, I have to go back what would seem to be 8 years now, pretty much. Back then, I finished elementary school, and I decided to go do stuff with computers. I went and took an education in electricity and computers and general networking stuff, but fast forward 9 months through that, and when the exams came up, for some reason, I was not allowed to go and do my exams. I'd have to wait another 3 additional months, and I ended up saying, screw that. At that point, I had started looking up animation as an interest, and as something I generally wanted to do because it seemed interesting. So I looked up a education 150 kilometers up north from where I live, and decided, you know what, I'm gonna try that. So I gathered up all my stuff, spent tons of money moving there, finally got into the school, got introduction, and yada yada yada. Got into the school, and the classes started, and a week passed, a month and a half, and we had 0 animation classes, nothing. It was just web, code, and a few days of design in Photoshop. That's it. I wanted the education itself for the animation bit and the design bit. The web was like whatever. So I ended up going to the principal and asking them, hey, where's the animation part of my education that you speak so much about on your website? And I was told, oh, yeah, we got rid of that last year. We just forgot to update our website.
Ooh.
So what ended up happening was I realized that 90% of my current education I was doing was something I, first of all, wasn't interested in. It was boring, and I was placed in an age group where I had no one to talk to. So living 150 kilometers away from all my friends, all my family, and having absolutely no interest in the education I was doing, I had one option, or two. One, move back, or two, start animating from home, figuring it out. And that's the same day, pretty much, that I talked to the principal. I went home, and I think it was around the time when PewDiePie started playing FNAF. And I found like a bunch of what you today call really shitty FNAF animations. And suddenly I stumbled over what you still to this day would call really shitty FNAF animations, but they were better than everything else, and that happened to be GTA Psycho. And I was like, oh, this guy's pretty cool. And I started, I subscribed to him, I followed his content, I got interested in FNAF and the lore and everything. Not the game itself, I never played FNAF much, as a fact. I never played any FNAF other than FNAF 4, I think. That's it, and then a few rounds of FNAF 1. But I followed Anthony, or GTA Psycho, as he went by back then, and I kept on leaving comments, and I tried to stand out from the crowd because I noticed that everyone that commenting was being annoying, what we later came to call a Kyle. And I essentially was doing the same thing, but still standing out. Fast forward 2-3 months, and I noticed a notification in the right corner, and I figured it's just some rando that replied. And it happens to be GTA Psycho, the YouTube star, if you want to call him that, from back then, had actually replied to one of my comments. And I was surprised to see that he actually told me I could add him. And that's how I got introduced to animation. I had already installed Source Filmmaker pretty much, but I could not figure it out for the life of me. And by meeting Anthony, GTA Psycho, I also got introduced to Nixon over time. I did some unlisted stuff, practicing, trying to get better at animation, and then came the intros and outros and everything. And it was fun. I enjoyed the slow growth. Like, oh, then I had 20 subs, and then suddenly 100, and then 300, and then something happened, I had 1,000, and there was general comments coming in, people liking the stuff I made, and they really appreciated it, and the feedback was good, and it was fun. I was really enjoying myself, and it kept on growing that way. The 50 sub special came out, and then it just exploded, completely exploded. I did Father Freddy's and the Little Ones, the first episode, and then not soon after, in April 1st, the first Balls video came out. And it was actually very silly, because the reason the video exists was because back then I still lived home at my father's house, and my brother was basically in his room, and I could faintly hear the episode of South Park going in there, and I figured, you know what? I guess I'm gonna reanimate that. It's good practice. It's stop motion, but I'll see if I can do it.
This is the first time we've spoken in about 3 years.
Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
It's just a silence with the people like, you just still speak to Nixon? The answer is no, we haven't.
we really have not. So basically, the way my channel started was I was really young, and since I was really young, I liked to create things. I was always kind of a creative kid, so I used to draw and I used to make all kinds of arts. But at the beginning, I got into animation, and at first it was actually 2D animation, like stick figure animation. But later on, I got into 3D animation, and that was around the time where FNAF started getting popular. So I used to stumble upon these FNAF SFM videos, and I was like, hey, I want to make that as well. So I got SFM, I got some tutorials, and, you know, I made those few videos, and they started getting popular. So I was like, okay, if I remember this correctly, there was a brief period of time where me, Anthony, and Mr. Jericho, we were friends. We were buds, and around that time, we kind of wanted to make a group, but just with the three of us back then. And we created a little group, and around that time, I believe, I messaged Ben. I messaged Hitler's Pimp, and I was like, "Hey man, want to do a collab? I like your stuff, blah blah blah." And then he sent a message back like, yeah, I like your stuff too, and then we should do it sometime. And with that, we kind of met, and then I think we kind of merged together to create a very early version of the Pimps. And I think that's how it went. But my memory may not be very clear on that one.
I can't help but notice you're still using the bunny in a suit. What's all that about?
Well, look, it's basically the thing is that's how people know me now, and it would be kind of weird to just rebrand at this point. What I did do, however, is drop the fedora, and I changed the color so it's not the FNAF bunny anymore, and I swapped the fedora glasses out because that was kind of cringe. So it's just normal glasses, no fedora, just a bunny in a suit.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've kind of creatively distanced yourself from that sort of thing. Like, you haven't touched your channel in about a year.
Yes.
And
When it comes to animations, even more than that. I think.
Yeah. Like you haven't really mentioned Bonzi Bonnie and that sort of thing in a while.
No.
So let's briefly touch on Bonzi Bonnie.
No. Oh, fine. What do you want to know?
What the fuck was it?
Dude, I don't know. I had this really stupid sense of humor back then. Okay, it was just so dumb.
I can
And
feel
there's
the
still
cringe
people
from here.
asking for it. There's still people Buns Money 9. No.
That gate has been locked forever.
Yep.
What's Expandong's real name? Does he have one?
No.
Did he
I didn't-
ever planned to
I
have
never
one?
thought of it. No, it was just always Expandong. It was that. Never thought of a name for him.
This is why I really appreciate you doing this, because you haven't publicly acknowledged it in fucking years, and you're doing it for me, and I feel really honored.
Hey, sure. I'm not gonna lie here.
Okay, to begin with, I just started watching I just started watching some YouTube, and like FNAF was popular at the time, but I have no idea like why I started watching that. But I started watching that guy called Energetic Shadow, but he's called something else now.
Who's Scott Cawthon?
I saw that he wanted to quit the whole thing, and I was like, I'll just make him a video and try and link it. Trying to get attention on Twitch. Look, I made something. But anyways, I showed it to him, and his friend Luke drew attention to it. I guess after that, they wanted to like invite me to the Skype. I guess from there on, I started talking to his squad, and he knew Toby. And from there, I kind of like swapped places. Like I went from their group into the Pimps.
I remember there was a whole drama of like, oh,
Yeah, this is like, oh my god, you're leaving us.
Malone.
Doesn't like me anymore. That's right.
Yeah, that kind of happened. Ben, at some point, just called me a pimp without like actually, talking to me at all. But he just like, oh, Malone, he's a pimp in this video. I'm just like, what? I have no idea why he put me in there. I didn't talk to him at all.
You gave him money.
Shut the fuck up, Foxy, and check to see if it's clear.
To begin with, it was not gonna be a series. It was just gonna be an episode. And it was basically fuckboys mixed with In the Vegan. And that's basically it. But then people were like, oh my god, make a second one. I was like, okay. And then I'll make the next one called episode 2. And then I call the first one episode 1. But episode 2 took so long because I was constantly procrastinating. I was like, oh my god, I want to like add a story. But then it took so long, and I was like, oh my god, I can't post it. It's too short. I need to make it twice as long. And then it's like, oh my god, it's too long in production. I need to make it longer. Then the third and the fourth one, I like the starts of both of them, but like the fourth one kind of falls off short on a cliffhanger. I didn't have any fucking script or fucking anything to go by. It was kind of like on the fly, what I thought was cool. And it's kind of hard when you have like this entire movie in your fucking head, like how it's gonna play out. It's something to do with timelines and like freaking absorbing souls of the universe to like gain power. And then he was like, once he done clearing out one fucking universe in that timeline, he just kept jumping timelines until the last one was the one that took place.
So
in the debauchery universe, that was like the last timeline.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and there was something about like a freaking prophecy kind of thing going on with Golden Freddy having to like fucking deal with him. And I guess Golden Freddy was like high as shit at the end when he saw Spring Bunny, because it's kind of a vision. He wasn't really there. And the very next clip I was gonna have where he like teleported to the timeline and the city and just went crazy. And I used that in the April Fools. That was actually the clips I was gonna use.
Well, my name's Yasmin, otherwise known as Mistress Flame. The first interaction I've ever had, sort of regarding with the pimps, is in the group of people, was basically just watching like FNAF animations. Obviously, Five Nights at Freddy's got very popular very quickly, and very quickly on YouTube as well. So I was just basically one of the random people that clicked on these videos, enjoyed them. I think I saw balls from Mr. Jericho. I think that was like the first one from memory I remember of the pimps that I actually saw. I was like, and obviously it was hilarious. I mean, it was like South Park. It was one of those things, and I even, I shared it with my husband. He pissed himself laughing, so loved him. And then it basically just snowballed from there. I just kept watching all these ones. I kept sharing them between like me and like my sister and that, who are also now big fans of it. And it was just like basically like a meme. Everything was just awesome. And then eventually, I believe it was Malone. He started live streaming and was live streaming debauchery. And I happened to go onto his channel, and he was live streaming on Twitch at the time. And I went, oh, this is interesting. Basically just got addicted to this whole, this is kind of cool. SFM looks pretty neat. And yeah, just sort of basically started from there and that's when I kind of got interested in the SFM, and like I was definitely not good at the animation side of things, but I was quite happy to just sort of make pictures, and that's basically sort of what I just started posting up on DeviantArt, and it was really helpful because watching, as I said, watching Malone, he would talk to you and sort of give you tips and tricks and things that if you weren't sure about how to do it. And yeah, it just basically just from there, it's just got to talking. I think eventually I might have got invited into one of the 101 calls that you know, it had been started off I think with him and like Hit Squad and even like Energetic Shadow. Sort of that sort of started, and then a couple of then every so often, obviously the other pimps would filter into the chat themselves and then into the calls. So I think I'm pretty sure I ran into Anthony, like GTA Psycho, and Toby from Gold 94 Chica, and sort of just started making friends through that. And then they started going, oh, hey, I'll come over to their streams and started looking at that. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, you can be a moderator in my stream. So I just basically that's kind of where I started, was just being a moderator. And then I don't know, just one day was like, hey, want to join the chat with the pimps, like all of them. And that's sort of basically was, I got flung into there, and I was so I was so awkward. Felt like I didn't have the qualifications to even be in this this
dude,
chat.
same.
We all had such a very close like enthusiasm when it came to, especially like they said, Five Nights at Freddy's series. Like obviously the lore, we're all sitting there discussing it every single time something little comes out, and every new game that came out, and you know, even just basically just the shit posting. That was probably one of the best things was. It's just literally all that. Like, I think I just loved every time someone would be like, hey, here's a screenshot of something that we're animating. And it was absolutely hilarious. And we'd all be just like, oh my God, like, I can't wait till you upload that. We get to see those little sneak previews.
Yeah,
and
that was my favorite part.
it was just so good. And then, of course, like, just the in-jokes that even when the animations did come out, we would be sitting there giggling at something that had been slipped in. And, of course, no one in the, you know, the public eye, none of the like commenters, most of the commenters wouldn't even notice what that is. But for us, it was something a little bit, you know, a bit of a laugh.
So, now that everyone's introduced themselves and you've refamiliarized yourself with who they are and what they do, for this next bit, I asked everyone to give their own take on what they think killed the group.
So, first half of 2015, right, you know, we got together, everything was going really well, but the problem was, everything was happening so fast. See, what happened was, FNAF 2 came out, like, at the end of 2014. It surprised everybody. It came out, like, way early. And so that kind of helped build up steam into it going into 2015. But then FNAF 3 happened. And that was, like, right at the peak. Like, I would say for me, the peak of it all. Like, when, like, the teasers FNAF 3 came out, and then the game, and, like, everybody played it, and, like, played it to death. And people got to the ending, like, immediately, and all found all the secrets. And I think just what got to us was just how crazy it got. You know, like we were just kind of chill. Like, when we started, you know, things were kind of chill, and we were just doing it for fun. And then it just became this huge monster. And it started consuming us. Like, the desire for us to please other people with our content, it was never enough. Like, we kept growing, but so did the demand for our content.
We are the pimps, and people associate the pimps as SFM animators. People thought that other SFM animators were also pimps. Like, everyone talks about SFMers, they always think about, oh, they're all together, all the pimps. Everyone's a pimp if you're an SFM animator. And that kind of killed the name.
I think people getting older, growing up is not the right word, I'd say, but just getting older, having their own things to do, life problems and life stuff, jobs, you know. It just, people were very different in the group. Some people worked with some, like there was the main group, and then there was always those side groups within the group. I personally felt that over time I got attached to GTA Psycho, I got attached to Hitler's Pimp as friends, Nixon. While some of the others, they were nice people, but when I handed myself to them to show interest, I didn't feel like I got anything back. So it was sort of that feeling of, okay, maybe we shouldn't be friends that close, but just within the group, as a close group, we could be. And I think that is part of the reason the group didn't stay so much together, because people are different, and as people got older, they got even more different, and everyone else got more different, and I suppose there's just only a few people that really kept contact, which is unfortunate.
I think it was just people losing interest in SFM, getting caught up in a bit of drama as, like, some popularity does bring, and getting some sort of special treatment for it. Example, exclusively having the accurate models, if you remember that. Drama just turning some people salty and bitter, I guess, and not really wanting to do it anymore. Like me.
I think mostly it's just that people kind of moved on or something. Obviously, at the beginning, the videos we all made were very popular, very well received, but there was a point in the end where people just kind of stopped caring. We weren't getting that many views, and I personally, around that time, I just completely stopped doing animations because I found a new thing I like doing very much, which is making games. And after that, I wasn't really keeping up with the others, so I don't know what their reasons are.
I think the reason why it did is because I stopped calling, because I'm kind of the fucking cornerstone in the group, because when we had Skype, I was the only one that actually started calls. And here, like I told you yesterday, when I join a call, the other ones join us like you, and then the rest joins. They don't want to be in a call just with me, because I'm like fucking boring and silent.
The best way I can describe it really is just a difference of opinions. Not just a difference of opinions, it's also just burnt out. I think one of the hardest parts was that everyone wanted to keep that, not like the pimp persona, so to speak, but excitement for people to be in a little bit of a famous position, really. And everyone loves it. But keeping up that facade for a very long time, especially when, like, Five Nights at Freddy's kept releasing games, the initial excitement kind of disappeared, and it became quite apparent that, not everybody was just motivated and excited anymore to do what they wanted to do anymore. They wanted to animate, but then, they didn't feel like they were, they were too lazy or just didn't want to, things just kept coming up. And even life, like, things just happened. Some found other people they were quite more happy to talk to, simply, and it became quite toxic in a lot of ways, with just how everyone sort of, they wanted to hold on to this group, but at the same time, the thought of anyone leaving was quite rebellious, quite betrayal almost.
Thank you, Yasmin, for that rather fitting setup, because the next part of this video is going to be about the very familiar form the word betrayal took in late 2015. The familiar form in question was, of course, Nixon, or, as he was known at the time, Traitor.
So Nixon was one of the original 5, but he was also very, not like secretive, but he just wasn't really, he wasn't trying to put his personal business all over everybody. He was very mature for his age, I think, especially compared to a lot of people who ended up being, in the fandom at that age. And again, I think he was just trying to not really identify with those people and just the whole fandom in general. He was, I got the feeling he was there kind of as a stepping stone. He was young, he was trying to figure out what he was doing with his life, and he was there to get experience, he was there to get practice. I mean, Source Filmmaker is a free program. It's not professional. You know, it's not meant to be something that you make a career off of. It's meant to be something you learn from. It's supposed to be something you have fun with. And so I got the feeling like Nixon was there temporarily. You know, he was there because of the circumstance, kind of like everybody was. And, you know, it was really cool. I mean, he did a lot of other things too, like creating music. And I really liked what he did with his music. But because I knew he was invested in all these other things and had all these other skills, you know, I could see that it would be really easy for him to detach.
I mean, Nixon kind of confirmed to me when I asked him. I just asked him if he was a sociopath. And he said, yeah, I guess I am. Because he kind of shoves his friends aside if it benefits him to do what he did now. And he did that.
Bear in mind, he is gonna be in this.
That may be so, but he told me that. And I'm still sticking to it. He wanted to make a game, and we were kind of in the way. Whether or not that's true, that's kind of like, I don't know. The guy never talks. He was just like, he was just the bunny with the suit. And whenever Nixon just did anything, it was like, Nixon! Oh, even though Nixon's quality of videos were the same as Anthony's sometimes worse, and people were still like, oh, Nixon!
He just didn't really want to be in the group, really, like in the group calls and stuff, because we were all too memey. Actually, that's a quote from Nixon. We were too memey. It was a bit too memey for him, and he didn't really want to hang around. And he went off to try and start doing his own things, games and music and stuff. It was music, and then the music faded out, and now he's moving on to game development. And he's doing pretty well, actually, right now. And
if PewDiePie plays your game, you're doing well.
Exactly.
The fuck was that shit?
And he didn't really hang around us all that much. And so Ben was like, he's a fucking traitor, dude. And someone in the group, I can't remember who, may have been me, I don't know, made the joke about the Stormtrooper traitor thing.
Then he put that in the 6.
He did. Just a call out to Nixon in, you know, the biggest video of Ben's channel. And Nixon was like, why?
From what I can remember, it had to do with Nixon. Suddenly, he got really popular, and then he just buggered off. And that was the general gist of it. It had personally nothing to do with me. I could still stand and say, sure, I don't agree and disagree with this and that. But I couldn't say, this is not okay, because it was not essentially my problem. So I stood neutral instead than picking a side, because I didn't want to lose any of my friends, really. We always tried to get him into calls in Skype, but he didn't want to because he was a squeaker. And that's just the harsh truth. He didn't want to talk because he was a squeaker. And he knew that. He was just a young kid, essentially, and I guess his way of dealing with it was to focus on his work, his school, and his life instead. And he just rode the popularity, he rode his success, basically, that he had gotten through someone else. And was it a dig move? Was it bad? I guess you could say yes, but I wouldn't say anyone really got hurt over it, though. He just kind of went off and did his own thing. And I don't blame him for doing that. I think many people would have done what he did.
Nixon had a following that was quite large. I mean, anytime you had somebody in one of the chats, in videos and stuff like that, someone always asks, where's Nixon? Where's Nixon? What's Nixon? Nixon's doing this and stuff. And so there was quite a bit of jealousy just in regards to how popular he had become. And I felt that there was, again, it was probably just a big misunderstanding in the way that they are. And also just the personality clashes as well. So, yeah, when it came to the scene on the bus in the Weekend 6, I was a little bit uncomfortable watching it because I knew, at the same time, I knew it was just a way, like, the biggest thing for Ben, one of the biggest things for him to do about his frustrations is he likes to animate them. There's more than one video on his channel that has definitely something has happened in his life that has upset him. Generally because of a person, not necessarily a situation.
Yeah,
but
he
when
likes to vent.
that's how he vents. Like, he could sit there and talk to us all day about how he feels about a situation, but he doesn't really like to do that.
Well, basically, like I say, the pimps are my personal friends, and since I classed Nixon as one, I thought he was a close friend of mine, because, well, him, Suna, and Anthony was together as a triangle. Nixon was always the quiet one, never really around, but I still classed him as a pimp because he was friends with them and we were all kind of together. He started getting a lot of fame, he started making his games, and he got a lot of attraction with like the PewDiePies and the Markipliers, and then he went off to do his own thing. And in my head I saw that as in, oh, now that he's got more fame than me, I'm not good enough for him anymore. That's kind of what it felt like. I invited him into my friend group. He was like, basically, you know, a no one at the time. He got his fame and he buggered off with his wad of cash. That's how it kind of felt in my head.
Do you regret the whole traitor thing? Like branding him as a traitor in the Weekend 6 and all that?
Kind of. In the 6, it was kind of banteristic because I was there, I jumped on him, trying to rip his head from the suit to claim back my suit. He left because of current situations then, so we all thought, oh, he's left us and he doesn't care about us anymore. That's kind of what it felt like at the time, so we made a joke about it.
I wasn't that serious about this whole thing. So to me, that was like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I guess? Up until that point, I didn't really feel this huge negativity towards me as much, because I wasn't really talking with those people. So that's probably the reason. But yeah, it's kind of hard to explain how that felt. It was just very unexpected, actually. I kind of get it, because maybe the way they felt was different than the way I felt towards the whole group. If they saw it as some sort of brotherhood of, you know...
I'm pretty sure at this point it was.
Yeah, no, not for me. I kind of can't say it was, you know, a very mature kind of comedy. So, to me, I did not feel that way towards the whole thing.
Yeah.
But if others felt that way, then I'm sorry. But definitely do not consider myself a pimp anymore.
Oh no, that
No.
died like 3
That
years ago.
died, yeah. No.
That died hard and fast.
Yep. So
you left and it all just went downhill.
I didn't even know that I was like that important.
You were Nixon, of course you were. We just sort of started to make jokes about you just getting up and just leaving.
Nixon, where are you going?
Nixon, you cunt.
I love that. See, that's great. That's good.
You just leave.
Yeah, sure. I mean, checks out, you know.
And sadly, that was only the beginning of the drama. As just 1 year later, the name Pimps, and by extension everyone in the group, were dragged into this spiral of toxicity and hatred over a very unlikely cause. Springtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. So, EA Springtrap fiasco.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I remember it not vividly, but I remember the whole drama thing that was about it, and also with the new Freddy and Bonnie and Chica and Foxy model too.
Mm.
So my opinion on it back then was that EA himself, he created something that was his and his only, and he decided to give it out to his friends, and that's what he wanted to do, and that's his deal. Whether that's okay by community standards, it does not matter, and to this day I think the community was acting childish, and they should have respected that that was his decision rather than pressure the guy into releasing it. He created this model, it's his property, and if he wants to only give it to a few people, that's how it is. I think it wasn't okay for the community to go absolutely crazy about it, because one way or another, someone else were gonna create a model that was equally accurate at some point.
I found it funny how people were getting so salty and pissy because, oh, we have this model and I can't have it, so it's not fair on us. Even though he's basically our friend and he can do whatever he wants with his models. So, of course, we could have early access to them. I mean, you're not going to really release a model that's basically broken. You need some people to test it. And since people got salty, I thought, I'm gonna rub it in their face. Look at this. I got this little thing.
Fun fact, I voiced that line in Ben's video. I voiced that.
Are you feeling salty?
If anything, that kind of fueled the fire a bit.
I know.
It was that video, and everyone just went insane.
Worst part is, I suggested that end.
So it's your fault that the group
It's my
died.
fault. No.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the shit was you just be like, ooh, look.
Ben kind of made people feel salty because he was kind of taunting the fact that they couldn't have it. I mean, people were being a bit weird because it's like, oh my god, give it to us. It's not your model. Give it to us. And Ben, of course, was taunting. So we all kind of got dragged into it. And since I kind of spoke the loudest about it, all of a sudden it was like, destroy him alone. Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, okay, fucking cancel culture. Fucking Jesus. Like, that was literally what is called cancel culture now.
Yeah.
I guess I regret, even bothering being a part of the whole thing. Because it's like, both me and Anthony roughly at the same time had the same idea, but we didn't talk about it. We kind of just posted the same thing. We were like, if one of us says something, and I think Toby was also in on it at some point. I think he said it long ago that he doesn't want to be part of something if it means he gets a bad reputation just for, fucking sleeping and waking up the next day and then fucking people want him dead.
As a group, we had everything animations. We had people who modeled for us because, it was just fun. It was cool. And, it was like, hey, I want to make some models and you guys can use them. It never was supposed to be a big thing. And everybody wanted it. And people just got really, I don't want to say violent, but entitled. There was just a lot of entitlement going around. And just the fandom that we were kind of at the head of at the time turned toxic. It turned south. It didn't become positive anymore. It wasn't a good energy. It was a drain.
Regarding that particular train wreck, so to speak, I didn't agree with it to start with because I did feel there was going to be an issue. Personally, I could have asked and I could have got the model myself. I didn't want to because I have not as when it comes to actually testing these sort of things, I was aware of the issues in the chat at the time that it had, I forgot what exactly the problem it did have, but regarding the lighting and stuff like that, it wasn't a properly working model.
When are you going to release this new fantastically wonderful spunk-worthy accurate spring trap? It's so good. When is this bad boy gonna be public?
And the problem with the community, especially at that specific point, was that every model should have been available. It was a very nasty, don't want to blame the community wholly on this, but there was a large portion of people that were very scathing at the whole situation because they just demanded that they should have this model.
And while I appreciate everyone being open, this isn't exactly an easy subject for all of us. I felt this section of this video would best be concluded by going straight to the source. So just in your own words, whenever you're ready.
The whole thing was obviously my idea from all the past experience of the FNAF 1 models or whatever, where it's just I don't know, they got leaked beforehand and I was like, oh, that fucking sucked. But yeah, with that experience, I might have seen a comment or whatever being oh, release spring trap. I think the idea might have just popped up where it's just oh, I'm gonna do a fucking joke release or whatever because April's coming up and oh, that could be a great fun joke. It was gonna be an SFM page or whatever on the workshop, and then there would be screenshots of it in SFM. There would just be screenshots of the model that would look legitimate and would make people go like, oh cool, here's the model, let's download it, and then they would get baited and it would just be joke trap. By technicality, yeah, the model was an SFM, and I'd given it to like Ben, Crows, I think Anthony as well, and I wasn't obviously thinking of like what would happen afterwards. I was just thinking, oh, it was going to be a funny joke or whatever, like I'm going to troll people, but yeah, people took it fucking way too far, I guess. I think from what I remember, like there were death threats, so like I'd uploaded on DeviantArt, like, oh, go to the Steam Workshop and you can download the model. I wanted to wait a little while to like update the post when people realized it was a joke. Oh, I highlighted like the hidden troll face on it. It was like a little other message, like, haha, it's a joke, like making it obvious to people. Then I was off and I went on vacation like immediately afterwards, which is like I'd gotten like to the resort or whatever, and I think after a while I was just like, oh, I'll check up on how the joke is going, like I'll see like if it's like if people are laughing at it. But then it was fucking chaos. Yeah, like all you guys, whatever, the pimps, yeah, like I was worrying about them, like, oh man, I really fucking want to say sorry to them, but I've got like very limited bloody data or whatever. Like I was going through on like my dad's phone because I didn't have a phone at the time. I was using like what little data he had left to delete the posts just to get them off the internet. After I'd gotten back, I think that's when I made that journal post saying like, hey, redirect all the hate to me. I don't know, yeah, like I know that it was an April Fool's joke, but yeah, like people obviously like treated it like I guess more than that. But I don't know if I completely apologized or whatever to like absolutely everyone or whatever, but yeah, like I'm sorry about it, you know, like I'm sorry that like, yeah, I don't know, like sorry for making joke trap, sorry for making that whole fiasco, I guess. Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
We're now going to move on from the bad stuff to the good stuff.
This good stuff.
What memory sticks out the most when you think of the group? Like when someone says the pimps, like what do you think of?
The first thing that pops into my mind when I think of the pimps, you know, the good part of the pimps was Back from the Dead, and how hype that was for me. A video of all of us getting along, beating the shit out of fucking Scrubby and the gang.
Probably over Skype calls at the time, where mostly every day we would all be in a group call and have chats and laughs. That's probably the best part.
I liked when we called and everyone took up the fucking thing and it was just a fucking mess. And we would live stream and we would share screen and people would like look at each other's animations and we kept sharing clips and shit. I remember when you guys were making Kyle, and bear in mind, I will take 10% of the credit.
Okay.
I was the one that suggested Kyle had this ability to like be multi-dimensional, where he's in the foreground but also in the background.
Just the calls. That was by all the thing that was. I don't know. I felt so fulfilled at the time. Like, honestly, it was just one of those. I felt so much happier that I wasn't alone. Like, I literally am on the complete other side of the world from everybody. So it wasn't simple for me to just, you know, go for a drive and come visit one of yous. Like, we're all at different hours of the bloody planet. Just doing weird shit, basically. It was so good. Even just like Rasmus used to do the drawings and stuff like that, which I still have saved. So many of those little drawings of his. Like from our streams, like just little streams and calls and things like that, where he decided to, like, you know, draw up something that was said and funny.
Someone would say something to someone else, it'd get a laugh out of everyone, and then he'd draw it.
That's right, that's exactly right. And every so often when I go through looking for stuff on my computer, I'll find that file. And I'll just go through, and I've got all these different comics. But yeah, no, that was definitely the best time.
I think of that old white screen with that green button and that disgusting Skype logo, and just sitting and chatting with some people that I don't know very well, actually. That sticks out very vividly in my memory. Not what we talked about, but just that. That was the original pimp group, and I only welcomed more people as they came in because being a pimp was not about a status symbol, it was a friend of Ben, and that's something that the community misinterpreted. But most vivid thing about the group and the pimps, yeah, just that, and the feeling of people coming in. It was like driving down a highway, and as everyone was driving down the highway, another car showed up, and another car showed up, then Malone showed up, then Crow showed up, and the group just grew, and we kept on going. And it's kind of felt in the same way that now we've driven down the highway and we've separated, taken our exits. Some are still driving a little bit, and most have gotten off.
Oh, my heart.
I remember that I played Black Ops 3 with Ben and Anthony. I still kind of remember that. I remember having fun. Because the weird thing is, I can't remember like myself sitting and working on all those animations anymore. That's really weird, but I can't. I know I did it, but I can't put myself back there anymore. And I don't know why that is. It's weird because I do remember like talking with you guys, and at the very beginning when I was really shy, that was really cute stuff. But the actual content creation part, I don't really.
Like, you remember the group, but nothing you did in the group.
I mean, when people created certain animations with me in it, I mean, that always just blew me away. Like, because when I started, right, I was just trying to be like a light in a dark world. You know, I felt like, you know, I've never really made a contribution to anything. I realized that I was a lot older than everybody else. So I was like, let me try to, you know, help other people through life. I learned the hard way that you really can't do that. People have to find their own way through life. But when people went out of their way to like make me a fan art, a drawing, or an animation, I mean, because, you know, animations are too much work for even me to do. So when other people would make one, that like just stood out like crazy. And it's even things like, I remember Hitler's Pimp had his lung, you know, problem. He had to have surgery to have his lungs repaired. And we just had such a pure support and, you know, encouragement and just love. And we all wanted to see him, you know, recover from surgery. I mean, that was like a serious personal thing. And at the time, the community was like still not toxic. You know, I mean, I put out a video for it and just kind of spreading the word, and just everybody was like really nice about it. And I remember that, you know, I sent him, I think I had made a picture of our characters together, and I framed it, and his webcam had died or something, so I just gave him mine, and I sent it to him. You know, it's kind of, I think it was like a birthday present, like right around the same time he had his surgery. And because, you know, Hitler's Pimp was he never really expressed his feelings so much, but I could feel them still. You know, I'm really good at reading the energy, even online. Like, I do really well online. So when he got those gifts, I could really feel the appreciation. I mean, he got to use the webcam, and I would see that picture, you know, the framed picture, like in the background of like the Skype calls or something. He's not going to say it to my face, right? But I know it.
Yeah.
He acts the appreciation. It's so much better than somebody who says thanks and then throws it away.
I forgot exactly when he made this, but I remember when I got it through the mail, and it was very nice. It's like something actually meant for me. You know, look at that, and that's not really meant for me. That's just a generic plaque that everyone gets at 100,000K. Wow. This is a balloon boy. I don't know which one. And this is my night guard character that I have, Kawashima. Remember him from Brain Training? Of course you don't.
I wanted to record a message for you to help you get settled in on your first night.
I fell in love with the lore, the story, and everything. I loved the ideas of the game. They were simple. Anyone could do them. Sure, it was jump scares and it was cheap, but the lore was what made the game interesting to me, because I've always loved reading. I've always loved a good story. I think what happened to me and a lot of the other pimps, Nixon, that popularity thing kind of got to Scott's head back then as well, because we saw FNAF 1 being released and super popular, and then soon after came FNAF 2, and then FNAF 3, and then FNAF 4, and then FNAF 5, and whatever the hell they're called these days. And instead of keeping on developing this really good story that we had, this good lore, and giving us small clues and giving feeding the community a little bit so they could start theorizing, he should have done it differently, and the game should not have been released in such a quick pace. There should have been a year between them, because the community and the lore and everything could have been much better written, and it could even have been good to this day and not been milked to death.
The game got too out of hand lore-wise after FNAF 3. It was too confusing. Gameplay elements are no longer surprising. You know, there's only a certain amount of times that a mechanic is unique. It's just once, man.
I mean, honestly, I think it's pretty cool. I mean, and that's kind of where I've actually gotten to. It's like, I've just been out of it for 3-4 years now. I mean, 4 years. I mean, the last time I made a picture was in 2016. Like, when FNAF 3 happened in 2015, I mean, in the ending, I mean, it just absolutely killed me, because it felt like FNAF was over. You know, you saw the heads sitting there, and they were dark, and you had the music. That was basically the start of the end. You know, I still stuck around, I still tried, you know, I got over it. You know, they started teasing FNAF 4, but by the time that happened, I was kind of already emotionally gone. And then eventually, you know, FNAF World came out, and that was a huge flop. And I just kind of lost my whole faith in the whole thing. By that time, I mean, FNAF had just gone so far away from the original FNAF. I mean, for me, it was like almost not even FNAF anymore.
FNAF itself, it's good. It was original at the time. And when the video started coming up, that's when it started picking up a lot of popularity, especially with Markiplier and PewDiePie doing videos on it. No! That's when it really got known, and Scott was like, money. Milking the cow until it's...
I don't want to imagine what that's going to sound like.
Well, if I were to just judge the game subjectively, I think they're really good games. Especially the first game was a very different thing than other horror games back then, because you were, you know, in one spot and you couldn't move, and the enemies were coming towards you, and you were kind of stuck. And that idea hasn't been done that much before. And even though a lot of people say like, oh, there's like 100 FNAF games now, and I don't really mind, because I think they're cool. I like the characters. The lore, however, I kind of stopped caring after FNAF 4, because it started getting really, really weird.
Yeah, same.
And the books started coming out, so I was like, I don't really give a shit anymore. I think the game is decent. It's a pretty good game. If we ignore the fan base, like you said, of course.
Yeah.
Because oh boy.
Oh god, we're not touching on that.
No.
We're not gonna touch.
No.
I remember watching FNAF 3 when it first dropped, when Markiplier played it, and I actually cried. The first jump scare. I think it was like Phantom BB or something jumped out, and I was just crying. But for the lore side of things, on the other hand, that's what hooked me. That's the story was just, it was too tantalizing for me, because on the surface this game was like, it's a bunch of animatronics that come active at night and try to kill you as you play this night guard. But then as you keep listening to the phone guy, and he starts talking about all this stuff that happened and dead kids, and you're like, oh, okay. But FNAF 2 popped up, and then there was more lore. It literally just baited me. I think it baited quite a lot of people.
The first one is kind of boring. The second one I kind of liked. The third one also liked. The fourth one was very different, and the rest I did not keep track of. I liked the lore to begin with, but Scott ended it, but then it's shit, he wants money, so he had to like open it again.
Do you think if none of the drama had ever happened, so EA's Springtrap thing had never happened, Nixon had never left, do you think the group would still be around today?
I think it would have lasted longer, but still not really been around. At least not as it was. Because at the end of the day, there's still friend groups within the friend group, you know? People still prefer to hang out with specific people. Maybe it would still be a thing, but not as it was.
In some form, maybe. Like it still is to this day in some form. But I don't think the outcome would be much different. I think it would be more or less the same, but maybe on a little more positive note. But I think either way, it's unavoidable that people, they get older and people, they change. So no, I don't think it would be much different. And at the same time, it could be, because I have kept contact with Hitler's Pimp. I have kept contact with GTA Psych. I have kept contact with you. So sure, maybe the group could be a little bigger and a little more active, sure, but overall the outcome would probably have been the same.
Maybe it definitely would have stayed alive longer, but right now I don't think there would still be pimps making animations frequently. It hasn't aged, in my opinion, that well. That kind of MLG kind of humor, you know?
Yeah. It's like when you go back and you look at the early like Weekend series, the fucking MLG glasses and all that. That's so 2015.
It really is, and back then, hilarious shit, you know. But now,
it's like,
oh no, weed.
I mean, we do still have a group. You know, we still are in contact. You know, we still are who we are, and I feel like the people who survived all of that are the people, you know, who should have been in it in the first place. We survived it, so that kind of means that none of that stuff happened. In a way, it's like, oh yeah, it happened, but okay, whatever. Like it didn't matter. Like we still got past it. To try to take all that away, it's like maybe you would lose some of the good things that happened because of bad things.
Regardless of the drama, there were so many changes outside of the group itself. YouTube changed. So in a lot of ways, I think that something would have changed regardless due to that.
For me, it wasn't really... I don't see that as like the breaking point. Me and Crows should have just like not stopped. It's kind of this trickle down effect that I stopped calling, Crows doesn't want to call. Like what would it have done?
It would probably be a lot more active than it is now. If none of the dramas and stuff happened, it would probably still be alive. If SFM wasn't still shit, yeah, it would still be alive.
I do miss it, to be honest. Because that was a time where everyone was enjoying themselves with what they were doing, you know? People were willing to hang out with everyone.
I suppose I miss how everyone was always together, always having a laugh. We'd always share our projects and show little clips of what we're working on, have little inside jokes in them.
The fucking wallpaper, just like, 6 is watching you.
Just call each other and have fun.
Hi there, I'm Kyle.
As soon as someone just heard like Kyle's voice, even if he wasn't even on screen, I did see on other videos people actually commenting and saying that, oh my god, that's Kyle. Just to be able to see the art and the jokes basically spread all over the internet, especially with the ones that were created by the group, was just amazing.
I have very little people to talk to, and it's like there is something kind of missing.
Debauchery to ocean sea.
CNN. Shut up! I've said this before when other people, like in real life, ask me, like, how I best function, and it's basically when I'm with other people that share the same interests.
Oh, what was that? Did FNAF World just crash? Oh shit!
Well, that says it all.
the group was there. It was a safe space. There were people that could relate or could support one way or another. There's a few people in the group that I no longer have contact to that I miss to this day, but I feel like that part of my life is over, and I don't want to keep lighting the fire.
Now, this is an updated version of the game. Shout out to Nixon on Twitter, who is the developer of this game, who helped get me this early version of the new update.
I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of good energy that we had. I mean, everybody, the memes. I mean, Kyle was a meme. I mean, when I did my one animation, you know, I had the annoying BB character. You know, that was literally Kyle. You know, so I feel like Kyle was kind of like the combination of all of the things that we were starting to hate about being pimps. So that character was created to sort of have that outlet. And at first it was fun. Do I miss those days? It's like they were so fast. They came and went so quickly. But part of being in that whirlwind was the excitement of the group. You know, it was a group. It was full of life and people. There was always somebody online.
Nick.
Yes.
Do you miss it?
That's a really good question. No. Am I glad it happened? Sure. Would I want it to be a thing again? No. Does that answer your question?
I might just have that at the end. So that's the last thing people hear.
You should really put that at the end, because that's gonna break everything if you put that at the beginning. Do not.
So there we have it. This concludes the video. Final thoughts. Do I miss it? Yeah, of course I do. To get a taste of that life, so to speak, and then to just have it end so quickly, of course I'm going to miss that. The group still exists in a form. We still have a Discord group. It's not as active as it used to be, but there's still a Discord group. Either way, we've come to the end of the video. I've got my answers, and I hope you have too. At the very least, I hope this was able to give you some form of closure, because that's what I really did it for. I did it for you guys. I did it for the people who were genuine, quote-unquote, fans of us and wanted to know what happened. Other than that, it was just nice to talk to everyone again. Doing this. Doing this was a lot of fun because I spoke to Nixon. I haven't spoken to Nixon in about 3 years. I spoke to Jericho. We haven't spoken in about 2 years. You know, people have lives, and people, you know, have their own things to do. Like, Nixon's doing fucking game development. I'm honestly surprised that he did this for me. But needless to say, big thanks to everyone involved. Really appreciate your contribution. This video literally wouldn't have been possible without you. And it's rather fitting, I think at least, that this video was the first and probably only time now that we all featured as our real life selves. I made pimp history. I managed to get everyone in, and I'm actually very, very surprised and also very proud. So I think, what better way to end this than with a classic credit roll, featuring all of our names together for probably the last time. Ben,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
I'm trying to find something to revive the group that we once had. Bring it all back, maybe.
I don't think you're gonna really find anything like that.
It's worth a shot. Never know what you'll find in these woods.
Okay.